Welcome everyone today to our webinar in which we're going to be demonstrating Redwood Analytics BI 5.2. I'm Amy Doles, the Director of Marketing at LexisNexis, and today I'm joined by our presenter, Mike Stern, who is one of our Redwood Analytics Solution Consultants. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you.
Well, before we get started, Mike, I would like to take a moment and thank ILTA for giving us the opportunity to have this product briefing today, and I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their busy schedule. I'd also like to go over a few housekeeping items before I turn things over to Mike. I do want to remind everyone that all lines today are in listen-only mode. If you have a question anytime during the presentation for Mike, please use the chat feature, which is located on the left-hand bottom corner of your screen. Also at the end and the conclusion of our presentation today, please take a little time to fill out our survey so that we know how well we did and we can answer any questions that you have. Mike, I know that you have a lot to cover in a little bit of time, so I'm going to turn everything over to you.
Thanks, Amy. And thank you to everyone for joining. I'm going to start today just by delivering a quick quote, which I think is relevant on the topic of dashboards and business intelligence, and especially as we apply it to the legal industry. So give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. Historically, financial analysts and IT departments have really been burdened with ad hoc requests, with manual processes to create reports, collation, distribution. The ability to get timely, accurate, good information to inform lawyers on the business has typically been a bottleneck. And as technology has evolved, the ability to provide self-service access or provide your lawyers with the ability to basically fish on their own has become possible. So I'd like to just begin with that and then move right along to talking about what is business intelligence. So business intelligence, it's about providing, in this day and age, the right data at the right time to the right people. It provides better insight that leads to better business decisions, which results in a more successful and profitable business. Let's just talk briefly about the evolution of business intelligence. As long as business has been around, data and information has been created and collected. In the early days of collecting information, it was done, or paper was stored in file cabinets. There were reams and reams of paper stored in file cabinets. Combining and analyzing this information was next to impossible. As computers came, so did the ability to collect and store information. But the challenge, once everything was entered in a computer, was aggregating, was actually getting the data out of the system. As technology evolved, so did the ability to analyze data. Reporting came along. However, if you think about reports historically, they were typically siloed and one-dimensional, meaning that the source of the data came from one database. It was one-dimensional. You couldn't change, you couldn't modify the view. With the creation of data warehouses, the ability to combine data became possible, and analyzing the data became more and more complex as the size of data, as combining data became possible, and it often involved hours and hours of IT or financial analyst effort to get the right information into the hands of decision makers. Today, technology provides us to take this data that's been stored across different multiple databases. We can combine it, we can present it, an intuitive, easy-to-use solution which allows our decision makers to make better informed decisions. If we think about making decisions, let's take it and kind of look at an everyday scenario where you use information to make a decision. Well, if you were buying a car and you didn't have the proper information, you'd result in spending too much money. You'd probably buy a car that didn't meet your needs. You'd buy a car that could have a bad history, and you might spend too much money on a car. So as IT, as technology has evolved, so has the ability to have the information you need to make informed decisions. So if we apply that to the car buying process, with the right data, you can view car history, you can understand trade-in values, you can look at consumer testing data, you can look for pricing information, and you can have tools mobile these days that allow you to make better informed decisions about purchasing a vehicle. Let's take a step back and talk and slowly start to apply this to the legal industry. So where are we today? Is your firm equipped to thrive the new normal? Doing business today and staying competitive in the legal industry is increasingly challenging. Firm growth has become static or very slow. Expenses are growing faster than revenue. In between 2008 and 2010, firms took the necessary actions to cut and control costs, and there's not a lot of room anymore to control those costs. So now growth is about fine-tuning fine-tuning responses while holding your larger issues in balance. With technology, you can have the right information and address the firm challenges to drive profitable growth. So let's just quickly talk about how technology addresses these challenges. Firstly, technology can provide firms with better, more timely access to data to inform on critical decision making. You can identify best opportunities for improvement. Having that information at the fingertips of your lawyers can help inform on where the best opportunities for improvement are. You can have greater visibility into your clients, into your practice areas, into profitability of these clients and practice areas, into the profitability of your offices. You can understand and grow your business. You can look at historical performance to improve management decisions. You can model and track engagements to optimize firm revenues. You can maximize cash flows by better understanding billing, collecting, receivables, etc. And you can deepen your business leaders' engagement by providing access to this data. Last slide we're going to look at before jumping into the actual demo is just how business intelligence addresses the challenges that you see at your law firm today. So, business intelligence can help your firm focus on growth and profitability. It helps firms manage key performance indicators, profit, utilization, realization. It allows your financial analysts and IT departments to quickly respond to ad hoc requests. It also frees them up to focus on more strategic initiatives, such as AFAs, or growth, or supporting business development. Providing dashboard for at-glance views of vital business statistics allows your lawyers to manage the business better since they have that information at their fingertips. With that said, I'm now going to jump into the demonstration, and we're going to look at the Redwood the Redwood Starter Kit dashboard. Just want to confirm everyone should be able to see my screen.
And Mike, I can see your screen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So the Redwood Starter Kit is designed based on our knowledge and after working with law firms over the years, we've developed this starter kit, and we've basically built into it the ability for lawyers to view information, to answer the questions they have based on the challenges that we know they're having today and the challenges that we've heard over the years. The starter kit that you're looking at today comes out of the box with the Redwood implementation of our BI5 product. However, we do realize that each firm has its own goals. Each firm has its own KPIs. They have their own questions that they need to answer, and they have their own unique ways to measure the business, which is why this starter kit was built as just that, a starter kit. And we expect our firms, after we implement this starter kit, to actually take it and modify it and make it meet their needs. It's not an application. It's easily modifiable, meaning that an analyst, anyone that can drag and drop or use a pivot table, can actually create this content. You don't need an application developer to build these different tools. And I'll demonstrate that a little bit today. I should also note that since the dashboard, that this dashboard has data and role-based security, so access, the views that we look at today, you can restrict access based on the role, a lawyer's role at the firm, or down to their individual data perspectives. This means if I'm a firm leader, I may have access to all of the tabs. If I'm a practice group leader, I may have access to all of the tabs, but the data limited in each of the tabs may be limited to just my practice group. If I'm a bill attorney, I may have access to maybe all of the tabs or maybe just a few of the tabs, but again, the data that I would see is going to be restricted to only the clients in which I have responsibility for. And finally, if I'm a working attorney, I'm even going to have a more limited view and probably just see some basic working attorney statistics. The final thing I want to mention, just generally speaking, is in regard to mobility. The solution itself can be viewed on an iPad, an iPhone, a mobile device, so it doesn't require any special programming to create those views. And we're hearing these days at many of our firms that this is a strategic objective, to put information in the hands of lawyers, not just at their desktop, but on the road and through consumption using mobile devices as well. So with that said, I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about some of the different information and the questions that are answered by looking at each of these tabs. I'm going to start by looking at an actual versus budget view. You may want to look at this view, or your lawyers may want to look at this view. Maybe it's a firm leader, maybe it's a practice group leader. This could be a bill attorney view. You may want to ask, are we on track to meet our goals? As I mentioned earlier, the actual metrics that we're looking at, hours, bills, collections, these are modifiable. It's easy to change what we're looking at. But if I want to focus, for example, on actual versus budget, I can see from an hours perspective, I'm performing above budget. From a bill or billing perspective, I'm performing above budget. And from a collections perspective, I'm actually underperforming what the budgeted amount would be. So with any type of information, we want to provide not just a high-level view, but the ability to inform a little bit deeper. So maybe the next step I would take as a firm leader or a billing attorney is I might want to understand why, or what periods have I performed under budget. As you can see from the chart below, we can look at these metrics by hours, by bills, collections, but you can see a trending of our actual versus budget. So for example, I can see that in 2012, in January, I was underperforming budget. In February, I was underperforming budget. But in March, I did better than budget. Or I could look at the previous year. We're looking at a rolling 12-month view. So I could look at 2011 and see we were actually performing under budget in January, February, March, April, May, June, etc. As a lawyer who is interested, as a firm manager who this is going to impact, I want to understand why, or maybe try to understand this collections metric a little bit better. So I can drill down into the collections and try to understand it a bit better. In this case, I've drilled down and I can go into a report where I can view actual versus budget laid out by office. As you can see above, we have filters such as office, department, section. I can change the time frame. I can change the perspective from billing to working attorney. These are filters that on the fly allow your lawyers to do some very basic digging into the information that's being presented to them. In this case, I'm now looking at the actual versus budget and viewing the variance by office. I can also view this by department or by section. This helps answer that question, how am I doing, And it doesn't just answer the question, how am I doing at a high level, but you can continue to drill down and understand it at that lower level. We could build in additional views if you wanted to drill into the section and view it by client, by billing attorney, by working attorney. It's all possible and doable using this platform. As I mentioned in the beginning of the demo, the starter kit is completely flexible and modifiable. As an analyst, I'm going to have access to additional tools. As an IT person, I'm going to have access to additional tools. So this report, for example, if I wanted to add an additional column, add an additional metric, you can see there's a design icon right here. I can actually open this individual report and design it and make changes to it. I just wanted to point that out to kind of reiterate the fact that these are actually reports that are being presented in a dashboard type format that are dynamic, drillable, and modifiable. It's like I said before, it's not an application which you need to come back to Redwood for us to modify or design. It's completely flexible to meet your firm's needs. As a firm leader, I might also want to know how I can maximize cash flow. I can surface information or key performance indicators. You can see I changed tabs, and now I'm looking at a key performance indicator tab. And I can look and focus on a few additional metrics here. In this case, I'm no longer looking at actual versus budget. I'm looking at year-to-date versus prior year-to-date. And I can understand, as a firm leader, as a practice group leader, how am I doing based on some firm key performance indicators. In this case, I may want to focus on direct margin, which is a measure of profitability, or a measure of our billing and collecting practices, billing realization, bill speed, collect speed. As I demonstrated previously, this data is presented at a very high level. However, your leaders can drill down and understand the data in a more detailed fashion. In the case of collect speed, I can start at the firm level and view collect speed at a year-to-date, prior year-to-date. Or I can drill down and understand it at a more granular level. In this case, you can see client by client what the standard amount was, what the collected amount was, how much had been written off, and what was the speed, how long did it take us to actually collect. I can take this information, and again, I can change this if I'm an analyst or IT, I can quickly change it. But you can also take information and export it to PDF, export it to Excel, etc. As a leader, I might also want to understand hours hygiene. What is this? It's an understanding of the work that is being done. I may want to look at the different titles, at different work attorneys, and get a better understanding of firm capacity, at the compliance of our working attorneys to our time entry policies. So in this view, we're looking at, for across the entire firm, we're looking at your associates, we're looking at individual work attorneys, and we're looking at their time entry. In this case, the date of last entry, the date of last work. We can look how many hours have been entered in the last week, how many hours have been entered in the last month. And you can look at other metrics that inform on time entry. For example, on average, it takes Adrian Abrams 7 days to enter time in the last 60 days. But in the last year, this is different by 8 days. So you have the ability to provide your leaders this view into hours, when they're being recorded, how they're being recorded. You can get a better understanding of capacity. This might be a metric that you want working attorneys to look at. I mentioned security previously. If we want to allow working attorneys a view into their actual work, this might be a tab that you would provide access for your working attorneys to come in and understand, am I in or out of compliance with the firm time entry policies? I could drill down, or in the case that I'm a work attorney, I'm only going to see the information that pertains to me, and I could drill down and look at the clients that I'm working on, look at the matters that I'm working on, look at the hours and certain information, standard amount, work amount, bill amount, collections. So I could better understand of the work I'm doing, how much is being billed, how much is being written off. The filters above allow you to change the time frame as well. So just another basic view that informs and provides information. In this case, it's very hours focused and it's focused on the work that is being done at the firm. You can also focus on inventory. Once we get a sense of where we are with hours, capacity, and utilization, the next step might be to provide an understanding of what happens to the work that we do. The work that we do turns into a bill, which turns into an invoice. So providing access, providing the ability for your lawyers to better and more proactively manage their inventory allows that work to bill and bill to collect cycle to be improved. Having an understanding of where we are from a WIP and AR perspective for particular clients allows attorneys to make informed decisions, allows them to understand their book of business a lot greater. As an attorney with client responsibility, as I mentioned, we want to just manage that inventory better. And a client may ask you. You may get a call from a client, and a billing attorney or an attorney with responsibility might get a call from a client where they're asked, how much do I owe for a particular matter? Well, providing this view allows them to quickly look at the information and provide that information. So I can drill down on a particular client and view all types of information about that client, which informs a bill attorney on the total book of business. For example, net AR and WIP aged across different buckets. I can look at hours trends. I can look at basic information about this client that helps inform on their billing frequency. Who are the originating attorneys? I can look at the individual matters. If a client called and asked how much I owe for a particular matter, you can come and you can look, or how much have I paid for a particular hour? How many hours have you worked? This is particularly important in this day and age where alternative fee arrangements are becoming more commonplace. You want to keep a better eye on how many hours are being worked across certain matters. This type of view provides that functionality. Thinking about this from a different perspective, I could be getting on a call or walking into a client meeting, and I may want to understand or look into more of a client inquiry view. And I can do that by going to the Client Inquiry tab. The following tab presents information about your top 10 clients, but you can drill down and find out information about all your clients. In this case, you may want to look at hours worked for a particular client, standard amount. You may want to look at a trending of that standard amount. Look at their bills, the collections. Or you may want to drill down and understand a bit more about that client. Again, this is a very similar view to the one that we just looked at. If I drill into Arizona towel exports, if I'm getting on the phone or walking to a meeting, and I should say at this point, this is an example of a view which I think is very relevant to surface on a mobile platform. If I'm walking into a meeting, you may not have access to that computer. So presenting this data on a mobile platform is really very relevant in this day and age. But you may be asked by that client, hey, we received an invoice on 7/31. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? So just having at your fingertips the ability to access that invoice, drill into it, understand how much, the fees, the costs, how much of it is still out there, how much is not collected. That provides you the insight to walk into a client. It provides your lawyers the insight to be able to walk into a client with all the information at their fingertips. I may be asked about a particular matter, and I can drill into that particular matter and see, attorney by attorney, who's doing the work, what office is it out of, what department are they in, what's their title. Again, this is becoming more and more relevant, the need to actually manage the hours billed as AFAs become more common. Additionally, in addition to the, so I just very, very quickly went through the, a few tabs, or the 5 tabs that are part of the starter kit, just to kind of reiterate.
And Mike, can I ask a question to you during this
Please.
time, especially while you have a screen up right now? There was a question as you were going through and showing the dashboards and talking about the availability. Somebody would like to know, as far as from a SharePoint portal, are you able to share specific dashboards that, say, key individuals would want on, say, their SharePoint portal or not?
Yes. So, yeah, to answer that question, you can surface all of these dashboards in a SharePoint portal. So right now, we've certainly heard, as we've talked to clients, a SharePoint portal was in place already. Do we need to provide 2 URLs for them, for our lawyers to go to? No. You can integrate this dashboard into a SharePoint portal as well.
And there was one other question as it relates. You had mentioned also security. You can set who sees what. Could you kind of go over any security that you were talking about before as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's 2 types of security in the system, or in the dashboard. Our warehouse is set up with security on all of the tables. So we have data level security. We also have role-based security, meaning you can restrict access to certain information based on your role at the firm. Are you an executive, meaning that are you a firm leader or part of the management committee, the executive committee, meaning you might have access to all of the data. There's also the role where you might be a practice group leader. If you're a practice group leader, you might be able to see the same information, so you might be able to see key performance indicators, but the actual data that you see is going to be restricted to just that of your practice group. So for example, if I'm the leader of the litigation group, when I look at the key performance indicators, or if I look at this actual versus budget screen, the data that I see is not going to be at the firm level. It's going to be restricted to just my practice group. Additionally, as we talk about roles, there's that role of a working or originating, or so the lawyer type roles. If I'm an originating attorney, I'll have access to only the matters that I originated. If I'm a billing attorney, I'm only going to see the matters that I have responsibility for. If I'm a working attorney, I'm only going to have access to the tabs that have been provided to me, as well as only be able to see the work that I have done. So the security layer provides that restricted access. You don't need to go through and build additional security, and that's part of the tool, and it's based on your role as it's set up in the billing system.
Great, thank you, Mike.
Just to review the starter kit one more time, as I mentioned, it's completely flexible. The information, the tabs that we created, actual versus budget, client inquiry, top 10, hours, hygiene, inventory, and key performance indicators, they serve as a starting point for you to create a firm dashboard. When Redwood comes in and implements our BI5 solution, we work to understand what your needs are as a firm with respect to the information that you need to provide to drive that profitable growth that I talked about. And our consultants will work with you to configure and set up this dashboard to meet your firm's needs. So this is just a starting point, but it provides you that view into actual versus budget. And as I said, you can quickly edit this form. It's not an application. It's quickly editable and modifiable. So you can come in and tweak. You can change the measures. You can change the colors. You can change the filters at the top. If we look at the next tab, which is the key performance indicators. We've surfaced direct margin, billing realization, bill speed, collect speed. Each firm that we work with is going to have a number of their own key performance indicators. And the metrics that you build on this page are configurable. And you can modify the view actually all the way down to the attorney level. So we don't recommend you do it at the attorney level. We recommend more of it at a role-based level. But you can surface different key performance indicators based on the role that an attorney has at the firm. What does this provide the ability to do? Again, it's surfacing information that's relevant, that's timely, that helps inform and allow attorneys to make better decisions about their business. In the case of a firm executive, it's profitability. In the case of a responsible attorney or a billing attorney, they may better want to understand the bill and the collecting process. We provide a view into hours hygiene. So, how many hours have our individual attorneys worked? Is it being entered in a timely fashion? We can drill down and understand what matters they're working on. We can understand more in-depth detail about our individual clients and provide a one-stop shop for our lawyers to understand where our particular clients are in respect to hours, bills, collections, etc. All of this informs on better decision making. With that said, I'm just going to jump back into to kind of summarize, and then we'll open it up for questions. But if I were to summarize, is everyone now back to the slide deck?
We are, Mike. I can see it great.
Okay, great. So now if I were to summarize, the dashboard that we just reviewed, it provides a focus onto growth and profitability statistics. It helps firms manage the key performance indicators such as profit, utilization, client information. Providing this and surfacing this information in a dashboard view frees up your analysts and your IT department. It frees up their time to work on other strategic initiatives such as AFAs, writing proposals, focusing on growth, supporting business development, supporting other firm strategic projects. So that's what the dashboard provides. Just jumping back in real quick, also want to point out that with the dashboard, we also provide folders. So if your firm has processes of distributing reports, such as either by paper or through some other means, those standard reports that you develop don't have to go away. The dashboard provides a place for you to export or to provide access electronically to your lawyers to have access to those standard reports. So they might be profitability reports, they might be diversity-based reports, they might be billing and collecting reports. So for example, if you have a monthly report to analyze active clients with no payment activity or inventory aging, we can surface those in an electronic format so your lawyers have access to those standard reports. Alerting is also part of the package. What does this mean? You can set up functions to allow, so for example, if net AR for a particular client goes above $1 million, send an email. In this case, we're attaching a report and saying for this particular client, AR has gone beyond a specific threshold. So the report repositories, the alerting, as well as the dashboard becomes that one central repository for you to provide access to your lawyers so they can make better informed decisions. With that said, I want to open it up. I wanted to make sure I left plenty of time for questions, specific questions. So I will open it up at this point.
And to ask a question, like the ones that were asked earlier, please note you can use the chat feature in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. And Mike, I'm not seeing any questions. That means that you did a very thorough job today. So I will close out our webinar today by thanking ILTA, once again for allowing us the opportunity for the product briefing. I also encourage you, if you have additional questions about the Redwood Analytics solutions, that Mike's contact information is right on the screen. And please take some time as you do exit the webinar today to fill out our survey. And we look forward to hosting an ILTA product briefing in the near future. Mike, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please stand by.